Hey everyone. You know, I never got a chance over as you know, during the summer to. I mean, I obviously did a lot of videos. Don't get me wrong, probably more than I expected. But I never really got a chance in between any of that to talk about something I wanted to talk about. Anytime I would get ready to talk about it, I'd either be too tired to want to do it from work, or this or that. Well, anyway, long story short, I basically wanted to talk about this, and as you can see the title down below, it seems that the MCU has opened the door to many other cinematic universes. Now we know that DC is, I just moved my fan there for a second. We know that DC is apparently going to, well, is, not apparently, but is creating their own cinematic universe. We pretty much know that already. We pretty much see that, we know that. You know, we have Batman, we have Man of Steel, which was the first one. We have Batman v Superman, which was Dawn of Justice, which was the second one, and then recently we have Suicide Squad, and then the follow-up, it looks like we're going to have Wonder Woman and then Justice League. And then after that, Aquaman, you name it, the list goes down the line. Marvel, of course, is still rolling ahead with itself. I mean, we had Captain America Civil War, which a lot of people refer to as Avengers 2.5. We have Doctor Strange upcoming this year. And then next year, we're getting Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I believe. Along with Thor Ragnarok. So that's leading us into 2000 Ragnarok, and I think Black Panther, I'm not really sure. But we're getting several next year. Now, when I say that the MCU opened the door for other cinematic universes to be created or to come about, you take a look at the news at a lot of other studios out there, a lot of other companies, franchises, you name it, are basically now planning to do their own cinematic universes in some way. We know that Hasbro wants to create a cinematic universe as well. Their cinematic universe would consist possibly of a rebooted G.I. Joe, if not a continuation of the current G.I. Joe franchise, and then included in that, to coincide with it in the same universe and all that, with G.I. Joe, we have Mask, we have Visionaries, we have Rob, I believe. Not Rob, I mean Rom. Like I said, we have, I think they said we have Visionaries, we have Mask, we have Rom that could be added in there, and I think several others as well. I think several others as well. They're being discussed about, but those are the ones that I know of. And then you got Hanna-Barbera that's getting into it finally, and they're going to start it off with their 2D or their CGI or traditional 2D, whatever it's going to be, animated Scooby-Doo film, S.C.O.O.B, which is supposed to tie in, which is supposed to be the foundation in which this cinematic universe takes place. In other words, it basically gives you a glimpse of what is in store for us. That's Hanna-Barbera, Warner Brothers. And that's two cinematic universes by Warner Brothers. I mean, they're doing one with DC, and now they're doing one with Hanna-Barbera, so, with the Hanna-Barbera division. So it's like, can they handle it? We'll have to wait and see. But like I said, you got Hasbro that wants to do it. You know, they want to do it with Visionaries and Mask and Rom and who knows who else. You know, maybe Inhumanoids. We don't know. But the list goes on. And G.I. Joe probably being involved in there too. Well, not probably, but will be involved as far as I know. But then you've got Universal. Universal Pictures. Now we know Universal. Well, not Universal, but well, you have Universal and Warner Brothers through Legendary Pictures. Yeah, Legendary Pictures through both Universal, a collaboration between both Universal and WB, are creating their own cinematic universe. Yeah. In case you guys missed it from Comic-Con, a new trailer came out for the new King Kong movie. Now, of course, this is not a sequel to the Jack Black movie. This is a complete reboot, revamp called Kong on Skull Island. It's called Kong Skull Island. And no, it's not about a producer bringing Kong to New York and da-da-da-da-da. It's basically a revamp. It's basically another telling of how many people have encountered Kong. Remember, several times when the movie has been revamped or rebooted or remade, it's always ended in a different way. Sometimes Kong would be sent to he'd either die, or look like he died, but then come back alive and then be sent to an island. Or something like that, as far as we know. We know Toho tried to do something with King Kong as well. They tried to do their own series of King Kong movies, and they were the first. They were the first to put the dream matchup together of King Kong versus Godzilla. Now, Toho tried that at first. But that was on the Japanese side of things, and we wouldn't probably get it for another month or year, depending on how long it took back then. But now, Legendary Pictures, through collaboration of Universal and WB, are creating their own Godzilla King Kong cinematic universe. That's right. In case you guys don't know, Godzilla, which came out a couple years ago, was about 2 years ago, was a huge success. Even James Wolfe, the angry video game nerd at Cinemassacre, was impressed by it because basically, even though some people might say it didn't have much Godzilla, it was still good enough to be, it still represented Godzilla in the way that the 98 film should have but didn't. Or people thought the 98 film would but didn't. But this was basically true to the roots of Godzilla, and it was in collaboration with Toho. Or at least in association with them. Now, Legendary Pictures, through that collab between Warner Brothers and Universal, is continuing this cinematic universe with Kong Skull Island. Now this, of course, is going to lead us into Godzilla 2, which will be about 2019, I believe, or 18. Gotta look again. And then after that, start the new decade out with Godzilla vs. King Kong. Now, we don't know exactly whether or not it's going to be a straight remake of that, or how they're going to make those two come together. But one thing's for certain. One thing is for certain. Depending on how, because you know that, now I haven't watched Godzilla that much, so I don't know if there was a post-credit scene that indicated Kong Skull Island was coming. Probably was. But here's the thing. One thing a lot of people will look at when it comes to some of these cinematic universe movies is the different timelines and how they interpretate into modern era. Now, as far as we know, Godzilla took place in the modern times. This version. Kong Skull Island is supposed to be taking place around the 70s. As far as we know. So how does that work or interwove or intervene with each other? We'll have to wait and see. Now, we know that they gotta have some kind of post or mid-credit scene at the end of Kong Skull Island to lead us into Godzilla 2, and then the same with that to lead us into Kong vs. Godzilla, or Godzilla vs. Kong, a year or two later. They have to have something like that to entice us. But but overall, this shows you that what MCU did, Marvel's Cinematic Universe did, is they opened the door for all these other for all these other studios and companies to say, hey, if Marvel can do it and do it successfully, so can we. Although some might have a hiccup here and there. I mean, DC, in the eyes of a lot of critics and fans, have had a hiccup here and there, but are still determined to continue on. So we'll just have to wait and see what they do. Hasbro obviously has something up their sleeve when they want to incorporate the G.I. Joe universe into their cinematic universe, along with by indicating the existence of the masked characters in world, the Visionaries, Inhumanoids maybe, ROM. I mean, this could be endless. And then, of course, you have the Hanna-Barbera one that Warner Brothers is also working on. And Warner Brothers wants to bring that to the forefront with their animated film S.C.O.O.B. And how that incorporates into the other Hanna-Barbera franchises is totally up in the air. How does it incorporate with Johnny Quest, Blue Falcon Dynamite? How does it incorporate with Yogi Bear? We don't know. We don't know. And now you also have Universal themselves wanting to get into the act with their own monster cinematic universe. Yeah, word going around is word going around with the plans to revitalize and remake all these monster franchises like Dracula, The Mummy, The Wolfman, Frankenstein, what is it? The Creature from the Black Lagoon. The list goes on. Bride of Frankenstein. Again, the list goes on. The Mummy. Again, Invisible Man, Invisible Woman. Again, the Blob. The list goes on. Well, maybe not the Blob, but you kind of get the idea. But the list goes on of the potential Universal is looking at by starting, maybe possibly, well, you got to start with Dracula, of creating their own monster cinematic universe where you can have team-ups, maybe even fights between the monsters. And it might work in their favor. We don't know. But what Marvel has done, and I'm looking at it right here, just by the fact that they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then add this year 13, and then 13 with Civil War, and then the 14th one coming out in November with Doctor Strange. Considering when they've started that, you can't blame any other studio whether they're going to do it right or whether they're going to try to do it right or they might have a hiccup here and there. You can't blame them for wanting to do that. I mean, Disney is behind the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They're behind the idea for this to continue. And don't think that Disney wouldn't want to do something with their own characters down the line because of this. I mean, the possibilities are endless. I mean, Nickelodeon at times has hinted at having their own little universe, cinematic or television universe, with their characters. But they've never done anything. They've never really done anything. I mean, the closest Disney ever did to having a shared universe, if you will, was when they did Legend of the Chaos God in the Disney Adventures magazine back in the mid-90s. Yeah, they did Legend of the Chaos God, which included the 4 staples throughout the 90s that were known for Disney Afternoon. Tailspin, Rescue Rangers, DuckTales, not DuckTales, but, Tailspin, Rescue Rangers, Goof Troop, which was a surprise, DuckTales, and Darkwing Duck. That was their first attempt at doing a shared universe. So if Disney, in a small thing like the Disney Adventures magazine, with the Legend of the Chaos God storyline, can attempt at doing a shared universe between the Disney Afternoon characters, then you can't blame anybody else back then or even now for wanting to do their own shared cinematic or televised or comic book universe. You can't do that. But what Marvel has done, in a sense, with the cinematic universe, has opened the door for other major studios out there to want to follow suit. And this is why Warner Brothers and DC get the criticism that they do. A lot of people, from Angry Joe to Alpha Omega Sin to maybe Mike and James to Doug Walker to anybody, has been vocal about how things are being rushed by DC and how they should take their time. Even real critics have said similar things. Some have praised it, some have bombed it, because those that have bombed it have said, "Look, you're rushing things." Look, some have come out and said, "Look, we may not be comic book experts, but you guys are rushing things. You need to take your time." I mean, Joe Vargas, Angry Joe, was very, very vocal about that, because of the fact that you basically make 3 movies in one with Batman v Superman, when you could have easily took your time with what you were going to do in that movie and put it in other movies. But they didn't. The point is, folks, what the MCU has done is a positive thing. But for some studios that want to follow suit, it sometimes is a good thing if they plan it out right, and sometimes it's a bad thing. You take a look at how people anticipated and did reactions to the Kong Skull Island trailer. That's because they know that this is one thing that Warner Brothers, in collaboration with Universal through Legendary Pictures, cannot mess up. Because they're not the only ones in charge of this. They're not the ones that are rushing this. Legendary Pictures, collaboration between both studios, is saying, let's take our time and make this something special, make this something epic, even if it's a 3 to 4, maybe 5 movie deal. And honestly, you can't blame the person behind this at Legendary Pictures for wanting to do that. And we don't know all the details of what Hasbro's got planned for this cinematic universe, but if they take their time with it, it could be something special. Even if that cinematic universe starts off or is indicated or hinted at in the 3rd G.I. Joe movie, if it stays in the same universe. If it's indicated in that 3rd G.I. Joe movie, whether it's a continuation from the last 2 or what, which I think it is going to be a continuation from the last 2, you can't blame the people behind that idea for wanting to go in that direction. You can't. For wanting them to take their time. I mean, heck, for all we know, they could use this opportunity, Hasbro, to basically fix the mistake that was made with the Gem movie. Yeah, because Gem can be incorporated into this in a rebooted kind of fashion, believe it or not. But when one looks at it, folks, what the MCU has done is a positive thing. It's a good thing if done right. Is it going to wear out its welcome down the line? All these cinematic universes, this fad, if you will, this thing that's going on with everybody wanting a cinematic universe or shared universe? Yeah, it's probably going to wear out its welcome in time, but as long as that money's rolling in, forget it. They're still going to keep going and going and going. And to me, when I look at Disney, and what they did back